All right, thank you. With that, we will move to the next item in our agenda. That is the future community center. Town manager has a presentation.
Thank you. So this presentation is going to start by talking a little bit about the history of the community's investigation of a community center. As well as where the board is looking at locating one at this point. So just to go back, and I'm sorry this is hard to see up here. If we go back to 2012, there was initial investigation of a community center when we looked at the renovation project for the Forbes Municipal Building. Folks might remember that there used to be a gymnasium in the lower level of the Forbes Municipal Building that was controlled by the Recreation Department. It was really important at that time to maintain the control of a gymnasium for recreational programming. And so at the time that we were talking about the initial renovation project and the removal of that gymnasium, we were also talking about the potential development of a separate facility. And at the time, this was the intended design of that facility. So really just a couple of basketball courts and there's one classroom, some bathrooms, and then recreation offices. In 2016, the town approved the renovation of the Forbes Municipal Building, but it did not include at that time the development of this design. In 2018, the town participated in the development of a strategic plan. One of the priorities of the strategic plan was the design and build of an intergenerational community center with activities for all ages. That was under one of the high priorities of diverse cultural and recreational opportunities. In 2021, the master plan identified the development of a community center as a high priority under the open space and recreation goals. There's a lot of text on these slides because we hope to put this online so that folks can look at it following this meeting. But this is just verbatim what's listed in the master plan, which talks about the importance of providing public recreation facilities, and this high priority action includes the investigation of the feasibility of constructing and operating a multi-generational center. So the master plan does talk about the community center potentially being located at the former state hospital property, which is something that has been talked about in town for several years since the town decided to acquire it. So the proposed location, back when we decided to acquire the state hospital property, was the recreation fields at the state hospital property. So this conceptual design here was commissioned by the then recreation director, Alan Grady, looking at how we might lay out the property that we were planning to purchase. And it was inclusive of a community center, which at the time is just shown on here, with really no discussion of what the interior would look like. In 2023, we completed the senior needs assessment, so we talked further about the need for a community center. One of our questions was specifically around the interest of folks completing the survey, and also key informants and focus groups, understanding their interest in having a multi-generational center. And so you can see here in the yellow, we see a lot of interest in an all ages community center, but I think just as important as we see an interest in a community center that might house seniors and youth, as long as that there is a separation. So separation between the programs maybe for seniors and then programs for youth. And so that really makes up the majority of the respondents.
Christy, just we're seeing yellow here on the screen.
Sorry, it looks white.
That's
here.
okay. I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
So also out of that study came some discussion about the disadvantages of the current senior center, being the actual physical location of the senior center. Folks noted that the traffic patterns coming out of Rogers Road were difficult to take those turns. Interviewees also relayed a desire for the space to have more active and physical offerings for seniors. This also comes out of the 2023 needs assessment, but there's discussion about the importance of physical access to the community assets, which can be challenging for older people. So we started to look at the potential of locating some of these senior activities in the downtown area so that some of these local assets could be more easily accessible coming from the senior center. They also talked about limited transportation options, and then that lead to the decrease in community engagement. And then also the 2020 master plan talked about the importance of really developing the downtown. So bringing people into the downtown, increasing walkability, bikeability, and there's a specific discussion about the promotion of mixed-use development at the Bay State Commons, exploring design interventions that could make Bay State Commons accessible and welcoming and vibrant. So all of this is to discuss the fact that the board has been approached with an opportunity to purchase the Boston Sports Club building located within the Bay State Commons. We feel like this is really what we've been leading towards since 2012 when this discussion initially happened. We feel that it addresses a lot of the things that have been brought up by the community over several different engagement opportunities. And so tonight we would like to present this idea to the community in hopes of putting it on the October town meeting warrant. So a little bit about the building. Currently, Boston Sports Club is located on the second floor of that building. Right now, the first floor is currently occupied by Spirit Halloween, but previously was occupied by Steinmart. The entire building is 63,500 square feet. The first floor is 31,000 square feet, second floor 32,500, and the purchase price that we would be seeking authorization for is $8.8 million. So as you can see up here, that's approximately $139 per square foot. Estimated new construction currently, which is what we would need to do if we were to locate out at the state hospital, a location that also would not meet all the needs that we've identified in these community studies, is right now estimated at approximately 800 square feet, $800 per square feet for a new building. So the same size construction would be over $50 million. So how much does that mean for the taxpayer? $8.8 million borrowed over 20 years at 5%, so just an estimate would be about $68 on the average single-family tax bill in the highest year. And so this shows here where the Bay State the Boston Sports Club building is located, at 1500 Union Street. So the proposed plan really would be to engage the community in a process to build out the interior of the building. So we know that we would like to relocate the recreation department to this building and take advantage of the space, and we'll get into what the space really is in a few minutes. And we would also like to relocate the senior center to this building. And as you can see here, the senior center right now is just under 9,000 square feet. So to even relocate the current senior center into the first floor of the building, they would be in a space that's actually more than 3 times the size of their current space. I do want to underscore the fact that there would be a public engagement process. I think that's really important. The idea is to create that multi-generational center. Multi-generational programs and activities typically come out of both the senior center and the recreation department. It's always been thought that the recreation department and senior center would create that multi-generational center. But it really is a blank canvas in terms of the first floor of that building, and we really want to hear from the community what the expectation and interest is in filling out the rest of that building. This just shows here the layout of Bay State Commons. You can see where it's located. Here is really what we would be intending to purchase. So in addition to the building, we would also be purchasing some of the parking area, and the total land area would be about 2.58 acres. And you can see what we would be purchasing, which is outlined in red here. This just shows the building layout. So again, the first floor being that 31,000 square feet, completely open floor plan. If you go into Spirit Halloween now, you can get a sense of it, but there are some sort of fake walls. So it's very large space. And then on the second floor, if you've been to Boston Sports Club, you are aware that there's a very large space in the middle of the building, but there's also several rooms already existing. So there's partitioned off spaces and multiple rooms, as well as a pool and basketball facility and locker rooms that could be utilized. We do have photos of the Boston Sports Club, or the second floor of the building. Important to note here, these pictures all make up that open area as you walk in. The part of the equipment that you see here is not part of the purchase. So we would not be continuing to own the equipment that you see in these photos. Here you can see the basketball court that's part of that facility, as well as the pool. Up on the left is a multi-purpose room where certainly we could do all kinds of activities, but would certainly expect that the recreation department would run programs, and also the senior center could run programs there. And then certainly the community center expectation is that it would be available to the community. The middle picture here shows the cycling room, so a smaller space, but a space available for maybe a separate program to run. And the top right is not a full room, but it's the top corner of the building, and so it's partially partitioned off to create some more private space. There's a break room that's available. There's a meeting room, and then there's when you walk into the sports club, you can see to the left behind the desk that there's this sort of partitioned off but open office space. So as we look at this building, we think that it does meet a lot of the needs that we've articulated and the community has articulated over several years. If we move forward with this, the next steps would be the October town meeting warrant article. The warrant article would authorize the board to acquire the property. It would also authorize the board to purchase the property, so appropriate the funds, which would be the $8.8 million as a borrow. And then we would also need to use funds to do due diligence on the property, which we would need to appropriate back into budgets through this article. And finally, we would be looking for funding for that public engagement process that we discussed. Then we would pursue the community engagement process and lay out that first floor, and then look at the second floor needs. And then finally, at a future town meeting, we would be asking for fit up of the building. This lays out a proposed timeline, so similar to the steps I just articulated, where in September, the board would be able to authorize or execute a purchase and sale agreement. This purchase and sale agreement has many contingencies in it, one of them being the town meeting vote. So it just by signing the purchase and sale agreement, it does not compel the town to move forward with that purchase. In October, we would have the town meeting vote to authorize the purchase and the funding. In the late fall, early winter, we would start to plan for that community engagement process. And then in the spring or early part of 2024, we would expect to close on the property and then engage a consultant to help with that process. And then finally, we would move forward with the request for funding of the construction within the building. I'm just going to go back to the photo of the building. I think, the board has been talking about this with the current owners for a long time. I think that we see a lot of benefits to the community with this space. Certainly one of them being its immediate access to the medical services, which are right there in Bay State Common, restaurants, grocery store, and then, beyond that, the Bay State Common, where we hold a lot of functions for the town, and then the downtown, which, as we noted, is something that we've been working to reinvigorate through the master plan process. So I don't know if the board has questions or if you want to make some additional comments.
I'll start. Thank you. Thank you, Christy, very much. So I think, you can correct me where I get some of the history wrong here, I think prior boards had maybe had interest in this building when it had a prior owner, and unfortunately that wasn't reciprocated. And with the change in ownership in the building, the town manager brought it to us to say, hey, a while back there'd been a conversation, do you want me to, check in? And she did, and we were, excited to hear that the Grossmans were interested in this project, to think of a local developer willing to sell a portion of their property to the town, I don't know who that call is, is quite remarkable, and just terrific on their part, and personally very excited about this opportunity. And I'll let everybody else chime in.
So, I'm very excited. As the board is aware, Ian and I collaborated with our town manager. We were asked by the board through executive session to work through the details of the offer and negotiation aspect, and it was a great process working with Grossman Development Group. I think this is look, there's never a great opportunity to spend a lot of money, but this is a great opportunity. I think when you reflect on what is on the bottom of that slide about the cost of public construction, we've seen that with some other projects that have come along in the not too distant past. And so we know what that cost is. So this represents a tremendous opportunity for a building that is relatively new, has been very well maintained, and represents opportunity, as Christy has already articulated, to many, really the entire community. So I don't even want to say groups, the entire community. So I'm very excited about its potential, and I look forward to certainly hearing, from the town as we head toward town meeting. But it has my full support.
Yeah, I would echo what Shelby said, and really through the process, had a lot of discussion. The board was able all to kind of walk through the building. I think the opportunity to basically get a ready-built building, relatively new. We still have contingencies related to doing inspections on this. That will be part of our agreement and purchase and sale, because that's what we do when we purchase things. But basically, while it seems like a lot of money, I do think that the numbers, as we think about constructing something new, that this opportunity provides in the downtown area, which was highlighted by the town manager as kind of important through our master plan, through our senior needs assessment. It really is an opportunity that I don't want to call it once in a lifetime, but it's a pretty unique opportunity, in my view, to get something in its location towards basically in the back of that plaza, so it does kind of stand by itself. It's not in the midst of everything, but it has that access to the rest of the plaza. And I think it really will invigorate the plaza from an economic development standpoint, but really be provide opportunity for the full community to have that community space and community center. Some things that, this is something that's been, as the representative of the Capital Expenditures Planning Committee, because we've talked about this has been in what I'll call our long-range plans, because we had other priorities before bringing a build of a new facility, which has been the discussion in the past prior to this opportunity to come before us. But it is something that's been on that list for the capital expenditures planning, long-term planning for the community. I would like to highlight too that the senior center, as we looked at the senior needs assessment, what the town manager brought up about that traffic pattern, especially getting out. The folks know coming out of Rogers Road, if you're turning right, it's okay because you're on that side, but if you're turning left, you're basically right at the intersection of Lyman Street and East Main, and it is a scary scary place to get out of, many times during the day. Having an opportunity here with the traffic patterns that are in here, with the parking that's here, again, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the town. I hope the town sees that. We think, as the board, bringing this in front of the town for this discussion and the opportunity to purchase it is absolutely the right thing to do. Again, it's the community's decision, the town's decision through town meeting to agree to move forward. But personally, I know the board is, but personally for me, just fully endorses. I think the opportunity. This doesn't come around a lot, and I think it's a really unique opportunity, unique building, fully supportive of, and hopefully the community is as well.
I'll add to that. It's a unique opportunity in a couple of ways. And one thing, having served as a past rep to the Capital Planning Committee, the multi-generational community center every year gets pushed out, right? It's a big ticket item. New construction, we always knew it was going to be a big ticket item. When I sat on the committee several years ago, the number being tossed around was 35 to 42 million to build pretty much the plan you saw there, maybe a little bit bigger. But this is unique not only in the fact that we can get a building in place and do an upfit for a fraction of that cost, and certainly a fraction of new construction. Even if you said, well, we don't need this much space, let's build a building half the size, you're still talking $25 million, plus. It's also unique in its location. And, and many people express concern that waiting till we could build something up near Lake Chauncey is great, but you have to drive there. This is immediately walkable from 3 of our schools. It's not an unreasonable walk from another 2 schools to get there. So it makes it accessible there. There's plenty of parking. Part of this that the town manager didn't mention is a reciprocal agreement that lets people visiting this center use the entire parking lot for Bay State Common, vice versa. So we don't have to worry about running out of parking around the facility or use of the facility. So it will bring people in. It'll bring people into the downtown. I remember way back when the basketball court was at Forbes, people would play, they'd leave, they'd walk down the street to some of the restaurants that existed at that time. We have that opportunity again. People will go to events, they'll go to programs, they're in the center, they're walkable to the new restaurants and shops that are opening on Main Street and South Street around the Rotary. So I think it serves the master plan and the strategic plan in a very broad sense, and it'll let us bring high-quality services, recreational community center activities to the community in a way that's convenient and affordable than starting from scratch.
Well, there's not a lot I can add here, but I will say that, first of all, I'll say thank you to Christy and Town Council for working on this, and certainly Ian and Shelby for leading the effort and bringing this to the board. It is an exciting opportunity. I first sat on the Master Plan Committee team as a resident, probably, I don't know, it was 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, and this was loud and clear, something that everybody wanted in the community, and that was reaffirmed with the senior study. And in my 1 year as the liaison to the Council on Aging, I heard regularly from the senior community on how the current senior center needed some significant updates. So to me, this is another opportunity to get the senior community the facility that they really need moving forward into the decades to come. It's going to provide a lot of additional space, a lot of additional capability, and I'm really eager to see that happen. My final thought on this is, I would rather pay $8.8 million with a upfit at some point of some number, but it's definitely going to be far less than $50.8 million. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the town. And then I would just say, while I would have loved to have it over on my side of town on Chauncey, I can certainly see the benefits of having it where it is. This makes a lot of sense for many of the reasons of the board already laid out. So I'm firmly supportive of this project, and I hope that the community gets behind it as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, and just one last comment. As a board, we're all in agreement that there will be a vigorous community engagement regarding, process regarding this over, once it is approved at town meeting to determine exactly what folks want to see downstairs. That is basically a blank canvas on the first floor, which is ideal, and then even, potentially what they want to do with the rest of the building. But, we couldn't be more excited about this opportunity, and thank you for coming here and listening to that. With that, our next
Sean,
item...
just real quick. I think the other piece is we're introducing this now. Town meeting is coming up in October. We want to have the ability to get this out now, to have the ability for public comment, thoughts, concerns, questions, et cetera, as we come into town meeting. So that will be an emphasis of us as a board. And through the town manager as well, but did want to say that is not just hopefully with an approval, that we will go through a process similar to the charrette processes that we've done in the past, where we pull the community together, anybody that's interested to kind of brainstorm and think about what we can do. But I think prior to that, running up to town meeting to have that public engagement, we're open for questions, comments, et cetera. We want to hear it. So that hopefully we can get as many questions as possible answered prior to town meeting. So thank you.
Sean, can I just add one,
Yep.
just to build off of what Ian's comments? I think that for those of you perhaps here, as well as those who may be watching at home or will watch this presentation or see the presentation that our town manager will post online, it's like a lot. It's like, whoa, where did this come from? And so I think there's certainly an appreciation. Understand this is something, if you've followed our agendas, this has been posted as an executive session item for a while now. So we've been working on this for a while. And through the negotiation period, I think that community input will be critically important leading up to town meeting, and we welcome that. I think, but I think that the town also, I hope there's an appreciation for, this is a commercial private entity wanting to do something with this building. This is not land we currently own, so it's not, like a long process or a longer process maybe that we've gone through with, say, the library or a school building renovation or what have you. So time is of the essence, which is why we're getting this done now, and then we have a town meeting coming up shortly. So I appreciate if there's a sense of it's a lot, but it's a lot right now, and it needs to happen quickly if we want this opportunity. And if we don't move on this opportunity, which is a very unique one, it will go away. And I think that that's very important that we all understand that. So,
Thank you, Shelby.
Yep.